Welcome back to the market picture. Then let's take a look at how things have fared across today. It is the lunchtime trading picture that is then. And we're sitting with mostly red out in Asia, which of course has meant that a lot of the market has sat a little bit topsy-turvy across some parts of the globe. Of course, taking in still some positivity following the chances of Pfizer and BioNTech getting through on that COVID-19 vaccine, which seemingly is 90% effective. So the market's still enjoying some of that positivity. But the tech shares have taken a bit of a hammering as well today. Perhaps that vaccine's news helping markets believe that things could get better at some stage very soon, which means that they went back into stocks that were not tech stocks, that had actually been beaten over the past couple of months then, which did see a lot of the markets globally head in the negative direction. So 0.5% down for the Shanghai Composite in China. The Nikkei is 1.8% weaker as well, or stronger should I say, actually managing to close on the up there. Overall though, the European market picture has shrugged off all sense of negativity, particularly with the tech counter, has gone up all across the board for this lunchtime trade. The biggest gainer being the FTSE 100, going up 0.7% as the biggest one out of the European market picture right now. 0.4% higher for the DAX in Germany. The CAC 40 in France is up 0.5%. Also some positivity on the local front, even if it is only just, it's very, very marginal. In fact, we're sitting at 57,694. We could go either way. As I said, that determination of whether the markets are going to enjoy the news of the vaccine coming through, or perhaps no longer investing or not looking too much to the tech stocks for today's trading, may even push the markets into the red. So we'll certainly see how things fare in terms of that red. Well, nearly 2% down as the industrial shares then. The likes of Naspers getting hit after Tencent fell nearly 4%. Alibaba getting hit almost 7% a little bit earlier on in the day as well. So that has meant that with Tencent getting a bit of a hit, Naspers locally has not been able to go on the up as well today. So it's down nearly 2% is that industrials picture. As you can tell, that has meant that the all share is in a bit of a flat space going between up and down. On the resource counter, even though gold miners and platinum miners are on the negative, it is important to note that the combined or the resources haven't necessarily been able to go down on the whole. Of course, you have the diversified miners, which are able to also pick things up at this stage. So resources overall going up 0.2%, a big 5.3% higher for the banks, which means that the financial shares have also been able to pick up. So all of those trying to hold the market together for now, leaving it pretty flat. In terms of stocks that have then taken a hit today in terms of negativity, as I noted a little bit earlier, Prosus, Naspers, both part of one entity in many aspects, have taken a hit today, having seen Tencent get hammered out in Asia earlier today as well. The tech counters taking that bit of a hammering and unfortunately not enjoying a good day today. DRG Gold and Northam, both the mining companies, have also taken a hit, following through on what you're seeing with this picture as gold and platinum miners have headed into negative territory. But let's discuss the positives, right? There are some. SABC is up 9.4%, sitting at 29 Rand and 47 cents a share there. Liberty also holding up nearly 9% to the good, with High Prop as another property company that's doing very well there, more than 8% gain today. Onto the commodities market, more and more gains for Brent crude. It's now 2.33% better off in this lunchtime trading picture, $44.76 a barrel, getting back to levels we have seen a trade within over the last couple of months, actually, having traded, of course, at very, very weakened levels near the $20 a barrel at some stage during the pandemic as well. But negativity, albeit slightly, for platinum and gold, so those commodities not necessarily seeing too much by way of gains. A pretty much flat stance for the local currency at present, 15 Rand 62.63 odd against the US dollar. Strength, even if it is only slightly against the euro, though we're at 18 Rand and 38 cents, but it does seem that there's a lot of volatility across this market picture as you continuously see it changing quite a bit, with the British pound set to set you back 20 Rand and 72 cents. Also pretty much a flat stance there. Michael Traherne from Vestact Asset Management joins us as well then in this afternoon as we get to grips with this market. It seems that the tech stocks are not the flavor of the day, but is that going to be something that we see for some time, or is this just a little blip as that COVID-19 vaccine becomes something that the market cheers?
Yes, Arabile. Effectively, markets are moving from being positioned for work from home to being positioned to back to normal. And that seems to be a bit of a knee-jerk reaction from the market. It's only been 2.5 days since that vaccine was announced, or actually only 2 days really. And there seems to be quite a lot of rotation. It's worth noting that the vaccine isn't actually out yet. And the market is just forecasting what it thinks is going to change. I do suspect that we're going to see once this initial news is filtered through the market, you'll probably see tech stocks become flavor of the day again. The reality is that technology is where we're at, and that's where you want to be positioned for the long run. So in the short run, a lot of volatility, but in the long run, I suspect we go back to as it was earlier in the year, where work from home is still a thing, where technology is still a thing, and that's where the growth is going to come from.
What about this rand, though? I mean, it improved quite dramatically to around 15 rand 40 odd against the US dollar after the US election results, where we saw Joe Biden clinch presidency over there. But it hasn't necessarily moved in any other direction, really, just marginally perhaps getting weaker. Are we perhaps going to see it stay now below 16 rand against the US dollar, or is there perhaps any risk events that could certainly shake things up?
Sure, that's the million-dollar question, I suppose. Where does the rand go? And I think anyone who tries to call it is a very, very brave person. As you said, the rand bounced off about 15.20 shortly after the vaccine news. It was a risk-on environment, and that was after the strength that it received from the news that Joe Biden is president-elect. So that was a lot of positivity for the rand. It's also worth noting that the dollar has weakened on the news that Biden is president-elect. And that's just the expectation that there's going to be more stimulus coming into the U.S., which is a direct relation into a weaker dollar. So who knows where we go? But I think as South Africans, it's great news. We're sitting here, we were at 19 at one stage, we're now in the mid-15s. I don't think anyone will complain where we're at now. If we get a bit stronger, we started the year at 14 odd. So it wouldn't be bad to get there, but I think where we've come from to be sitting in the mid-15s, we can't complain too much, and that's been good news for our inflation.
What happens then with the oil price then as well? Now we're headed towards $45 a barrel. At some stage it seemed like we would maybe hinge and sit around 40 and even below $40 a barrel. Where are we at now and why?
Sure, really rough. And considering that South Africa is an oil importer instead of an exporter, oil matters to our economy, particularly from an inflation perspective. At the end of October, it was at $38 a barrel. We're now at just below 45, as you say. That's a 20% swing. And I think you can put all of that onto the vaccine. We saw that minutes after the vaccine was announced, oil was up already 7-8%. And the expectation is that as we leave our homes more, as we travel more, as the airline industry picks up, the demand for oil will pick up, and that's why you're seeing the price go up. So I think if we're sitting here in South Africa, obviously you want a low oil price. So let's hope it doesn't get above 50 and it stays in these 40s.
All right. Very finally then, I suppose the general market sentiment is still waiting for an official sort of declaration to get to grips with the U.S. election. Locally, we're not seeing any sense of a growth picture. Are there perhaps any areas you're looking into to say, yeah, we'll stay in these stocks for the time being? Anything that sort of offers any value at present?
So in South African stocks in general, particularly the very South African-focused stocks, have been very cheap, particularly with COVID, and the market's been pricing in a massive hit to our GDP and a very, very slow recovery. That narrative has now changed with the vaccine announcement, and the hope is that South Africa gets back onto a decent-looking growth path. And as a result, you're seeing SA Inc. stocks do really, really well. Will that hold up? Who knows? The darlings on the JSE has been Naspers and Prosus, but as you said earlier, I mean, they're being smashed at the moment. There's a big sentiment shift in China to start targeting large corporations, and Naspers' biggest investment is Tencent there. So Tencent down, I think, about 7% as we speak, which means Naspers and Prosus are down about 6%. So that hasn't helped our overall market.
Yeah, certainly hasn't at present, and we'll see how that fares, of course, in the long run. As you said, investors perhaps bowing out a little bit out of that tech sector to go into shares that perhaps were a little bit cast aside, if you want to call it that, throughout this pandemic. We'll see how things fare, though. Michael Traherne, appreciate the time. Thank you for joining us here on Point this afternoon. He's from Vestact Asset Management. We're going to take a short